Ladies and gentlemen, buzzards and gulls, welcome to another Wingspan gameplay video. I am your host, Knack Nestor. Grab some coffee, grab some tea, your beverage of choice, sit back, relax, and let's... Oh, weird. That bird is always in my opening hand, I swear. I guess we should all just do what it says. Anyway, let's go into my starting hand. We have one of the more hot topic birds available in my opening hand, Willy Wagtail. I personally think the Willy Wagtail is very good. However, I do think people often overuse the reset feature of the Willy Wagtail. I am personally a believer that if you're going to play a Willy Wagtail in the forest, you should just take any cup nest that you see. That is my personal philosophy. I think Rule 16 is way too strong in Oceania, and resetting the feeder, or resetting the tray and allowing your opponent to just grab a free white stork, common raven, you name it, any great bird that they need, it's just too good. You don't even, aside all the power birds, you also don't always know what bird they need. And the earlier you play it, the more likely you are to reveal a very good bird for the Willy Wagtail to give to your opponent, essentially. So I wasn't entirely sure how I wanted to do this. I thought about just doing a digging engine to start with white-throated dipper and then play the wagtail after the dipper so that, you know, you can draw cards, you can reset with the wagtail freely, and then you can reset again with the dipper to make sure it doesn't just leave in a prime tray for your opponent. That is not what I ended up doing, but it's kind of what I wanted to do, and then I realized I didn't keep a wheat, which means in order to do that effectively, I would use the turtle dove in the forest and then grab one of those nectar, or maybe even just lay an egg on it and then lay birds in the forest. I know that my opponent has grabbed the, the masked lapwing. And masked lapwing means that he is going to be resetting the feeder, so I might as well put something in the forest that will allow me the fresh feeder often. So looking at this, I really wish I had spent the fish there. Because that fish, hindsight's 2020, but that fish sits in my inventory for a while. And, you know, the white-throated dipper is the only bird that I really need the fish for. I decided to play the wagtail and just play value, is what I call it, where it's like, yeah, I might as well just drop the bird and take valuable birds. Again, he's been drawing like crazy, but I just don't want to Rule 16 this. I want to just take the bird that's available. If anything, now would be a good time to Rule 16. Rule 16 is you reveal a bird in the tray that is better for your opponent than it is for you. Or it's just, you know, you reveal a new bird that's super good. So I didn't really want to do that now. And I figure as long as he's taking blank draw one cards, even if they're good birds, the longer you do that, the worse your game's gonna be. So I really think I could have gotten away with just Willy Wagtail flip, and I probably would have gotten that gray catbird, which would have been really interesting for this game. But here I am now. It's like, okay, if he draws a card, just one, again, then I don't care. Even if it's the best card in the game, I don't care if he takes a single draw action once again. And I figured, you know, that Wilson Storm Petrel, I think that's calling my name, actually. I think Wilson Storm Petrel is a brilliant bird to start with, especially when you've got great food access already. I see he's got the masked lapwing down. He used it, so, you know, he only got 3 food out of it, which is brutal. Did he get a cherry? I don't think he did. I think they were just 3 food for that. Generally okay, but typically you want 4 or more from that lapwing, otherwise it really missed. So I really wish I had used a fish there again, because again, this fish is gonna be a common theme this game. It just sits in my inventory for quite a while. So I decide, okay, I could take that nuthatch. I think that's a pretty good bird to follow with my wagtail. As I'm going through this game, I decide, okay, yeah, I'll probably build an engine out of my forest. Looking back, yeah, I think I could have safely played that nuthatch, but I just didn't want it, I guess, is the best way to say it. I just felt it wasn't exactly what I wanted. I think I took it at the end just to make sure my opponent couldn't take it because I didn't know what he was going to do. And then I draw this wood duck. And now I'm like, well, shoot. What do I... And then a yellow hammer. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And as you've seen from my previous videos, I think yellow hammer is just such an insanely valuable bird. I think it is so good. I think you get 4 free extra birds throughout the game as long as you're taking every action. And now I'm like, oh, I've got an information overload. I've got a lot going on here and I don't know quite the best way to do it. I think I did okay the way it played out, but this is one of those games where I think if I was a better player, I could have gotten a better score. I'm not going to say what I scored this game. I think I could have I think this is one of those games where I could have just really popped off because there's so much value in this hand already, and I'm not quite sure the best way to do it. I thought about full tuck. I thought, if I went full tucking engine right now, I'm already off to a really hot start. I can take food and get some extra tucks. I can just play Savis and white-throated dipper and chiff-chaff in the grasslands, and I can even probably tempo play a yellow hammer to get some eggs and then play one for free. But then I don't think I would use the yellow hammer the rest of the game. I was just really thinking through the different options, but I decided, okay, I'm going to play standard. I'm not going to build any particular engine. I'm just going to do yellow hammer because I think that's more fun to play around. I think that bird can be very good. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what birds do I really want to play next? And see, I know I want to get the yellow hammer down if I'm going to play standard, and I really want to get wood duck down as well. I think wood duck, willy wagtail, that's the dream, right? If there's a good bird in the tray, you can draw it. If it's a cup nest, you can get an extra bird with the wood duck. So I decided to take worm and then nectar. And again, I am a big proponent of just take what's in the tray. I did reset the tray here. Oh no, I didn't. I just take what's in the tray. It's fine. All of that Korimako, I'm not going to play the Korimako, but I am going to, feed that Korimako for something else, right? So looking at this, I'm pretty sure it was just yellow hammer and lay eggs, and then I can play chiff-chaff, or I can even play white-throated dipper. I really wasn't sure the best way to go about this, and if you're watching this and you see in the comments what's the best way to play this, feel free, let me know. I thought about going full tuck in the grasslands. I think I had a decent enough setup for it, but I just wasn't quite feeling, I didn't think it was quite potent yet, like right now, even with all my draws in the chiff-chaff, that's essentially 5-point engine, right? Because you can just tuck 5 birds and you're not really gaining other resources. And it's not like I'm tucking for an egg, and it's not, the ring build goal is right there, but is it that good? Like, you could probably find maybe a maned duck or a mute swan later to pair with it, but I just decided it's fine. I'm gonna play standard, we'll play this yellow hammer, and then now I can use the worm, the fish, and go after something else. Yep, so just lay eggs here, fine, and then I'm pretty sure I put chiff-chaff in the forest. I decided I've got a lot of birds that just draw a bunch of cards, and I know I'm going to be drawing at least once a turn, and I know, the petrel's going to get a lot of use, and I figure I can probably put warbler or white-throated dipper down there and just generate tons of cards so that my chiff-chaff can also go. I figured wood duck would also generate some random cards, wagtail. I just know I'm generating lots of cards, so I'll have plenty of things to tuck throughout the game with the chiff-chaff. So I think that was fairly safe, you know, to put it in the forest. I thought about putting it in the grasslands, but I was like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Forest is good. We can take those, if there's nothing good in the tray, we can take those 2 nectar next turn, and I've got birds that I can tuck already, so I think it's perfectly fine. Hey all, this is Future Knack Nester. I recorded this while editing my previous recording, and looking back at the way this played out, I really wish I had played Savi's Warbler using the yellow hammer here instead of putting the Chiff-Chaff up there. I figured I just wanted to get the Chiff-Chaff going, but there's really no rush. I really should stockpile a bunch of cards if I'm gonna put the Chiff-Chaff in the forest, and that's a good lessons learned from this game, and I hope you can all take that away from this as well. Savi's Warbler would give me 2 extra draws in my wetlands, so every time I take that action, let's say, you know, Yellowhammer, I know I'm gonna have to take the draw cards action. Let's say I only draw cards 3 more times the rest of the game. Well, that's Savi's Warbler gives me 6 cards, 6 points. I don't expect to only draw 3 more times the rest of the game, but assuming I did, that's still a 6 point. It still adds 6 points to the forest engine, basically, even if they're junk or not. Let alone the value of just, you know, seeing more cards with more value to play. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. Or the white-throated dipper would have made a lot of sense here as well, but I think Savi's Warbler really is the play when you have a Chiff-Chaff that can just tuck all junk. So let me know what you think in the comments. There's nothing good in the tray, so I think now is a good time to just take... Let me see. Here's something I will say about the Chiff-Chaff. Being patient with the... I was not patient with my tucks this game. And there's actually something I thought about. A good general rule that I got as a takeaway from this game is, and I could have probably gotten about maybe 5 to 10 more points if I had done this right, but like right here, I'm definitely not going to ditch a card for extra. I'm definitely not going to ditch a card for extra food. There's no reason to tuck Savi's Warbler yet. There just isn't. The reason is because there's another pretty dangerous Rule 16 moment. But there was nothing in the tray, so it's fine. I can Willy Wagtail, and I just think I have more value than he does anyway, so I don't care if I give him something crazy good. Still, dangerous. I think not tucking Savi's there, just in case I want to use it. You know, Savi's gives me 2 cards. It gives him 1, but it gives me 2 cards. That's more tucks for the Chiff-Chaff. That's a lot more cards to look through and cycle through. That's really good for this Yellowhammer style build where you're just like, I need all the resources possible. I need all the food I can get. I need all the cards I can get. So I don't think I should have tucked that. I figured I would probably play the Dipper, but I also want to get this Wood Duck down ASAP. And I don't know, I really think I should have just waited and I didn't have to tuck, because Chiff-Chaff, you tuck so many cards later, and you'll see there's turns where I don't use the full tucking power of it, and so, you know, there's no reason. And then I see the Planeswanderer. I think Planeswanderer is so good. I'm not even sure if I used it this game, but I figured I would stash it and play it later. I know I'm gonna need more eggs at some point, so I figured now's the time to drop Turtle Dove just to get me out to that trade 1 food for, or trade 1 resource for an extra egg. And then I really want that Planeswanderer. I don't want him to have it, and I think he could get use out of it too, so I decided that was safe. I'll pick that up. And sure enough, it reveals a House Finch, so I'm a little bit like, I don't know, it's sad, but that's okay. So now I think it's safe to draw cards, actually. And I see he plays a Raven, so I'm like, oh, he's going to lay eggs a ton. But honestly, I don't get scared by round 2 Raven anymore. I think Raven should be taken off the house rule. Raven can be so good if you play it turn 1, but it's not the auto win it used to be, and I really wish they would get rid of that house rule, but that's my opinion. the mods will probably do what's best for what they think is best for the community, and I think they generally make good decisions personally. So the Greater Flamingo coming in, that would have been pretty good for the full tuck engine, but I don't know. Greater Flamingo is such a niche good bird. Greater Flamingo is honestly best when you're doing full tuck against a full tuck. It can be insanely valuable, but unless you're facing a full tuck, or at least somebody that draws cards twice at the beginning of their round, it actually, I don't know. Greater Flamingo is just an awkward bird. Didn't really draw anything good, but I wanted to deny him. I don't remember what that bird was in the tray, but I wanted it gone. I didn't necessarily want to use it. I just didn't want him to have it. I don't think I'll use the gray lag goose, but I'm not concerned. I have a chiff chaff. Anything I don't want to use, we'll tuck it. So now I have decisions to make, right? I've got 4 turns left. I figure I might as well take value and grab nectar while it's there. I've got birds that I can tuck, so I'm surprised I didn't ditch a card for the extra nectar. I think that would have been smart. Because the point right now is whatever, but the nectar gets me another bird down faster. But again, I didn't need to use Chiff Chaff yet. I can always use Chiff Chaff later. I'm gonna be drawing plenty of birds throughout the game, and I probably won't like fully maximize Chiff Chaff, so I could have just ditched one of those for a nectar instead of doing what I did. Just ditch the nectar for an extra food or something, so. Looking at this end of round goal, if you've noticed, I still have the fish that I started with at the beginning of the game. Looking at this end of round goal, though, I don't usually like to compete for food and personal supply in this early round. I usually just like to keep 1 food just to get you the base 2 points in this case. Winning that 5 points, it's a 6-point battle, right? If you win, you get 5, they get 2, you're 3 ahead. If you... I don't know. I don't think it's worth it to fight for food and personal supply, because that's nectar you're not using, right? And nectar is just so valuable. So I actually like the way I did this and just let my opponent take this victory and just kept that 1 fish. I thought about ditching the fish here for an egg, but thank God I didn't, because that would have been a mistake. See, I hovered it, grabbed the fish, I even turned it in, I even put the eggs down, and before I hit the button I thought about it, and I was like, I probably shouldn't ditch the fish. I should probably just suck it up and ditch a card. Because that fish is worth 2 points. The card is only worth 1 point that will be tucked under Chiff Chaff, so there's no reason. So because I have the house finch now, I think it makes sense to play that next and then play the wood duck after it, because you'll draw 2 with the wood duck regardless, and then you can ditch bad cards to house finch. You can filter with house finch one of the bad cards from the wood duck draw, and then, or just something you drew earlier, and then tuck with Chiff Chaff after, and then then I can wagtail at the end to just grab an extra card that I will have to discard 1 with wood duck. So I'm thinking about the way this plays out, and I actually really like this engine that I've built. And especially with Yellow Hammer, that means that I'm not like wasting turns, drawing cards in this case, because I get 3 cards, right? But if I didn't tuck Savvies earlier, I think that would have been worth it here. But hindsight's 20/20. Because if you see Savvy's Warbler as two tucked cards and giving your opponent a card, it's pretty dang good. I think it was my recent video with Bout Nemo, where he said, as long as you have better food access, then giving your opponent a card really isn't that dangerous. And I have to agree. I think giving gaining 2 cards and giving my opponent 1, even though he's got a Raven, I think that's perfectly safe. So Turtle Dove, as you can tell from the title of the video, draw that Behaviorist, and I haven't talked about it yet, but at this point, I'm thinking Behaviorist is about to blank, because I kind of want to put that Dipper in the 3rd slot, or the 2nd slot of my wetlands yet, but something about Behaviorist is telling me just bide your time, just see if you can find something else, maybe Dipper doesn't go down. It's only a 3-point bird. It's not that big of a deal. I guess we'll find out. So now I'm thinking, okay, I can just take everything I need for the wood duck and use that to get it down. I've decided I'm not using the Dipper at this point. I wanted to, but I decided no, it's fine. I will have plenty of card access this game. Dipper has a great effect, but it's a little too late for it, so I decide not to, and I draw this white-bellied sea eagle. And part of me was like, do I play that instead of the wood duck? I mean, white-bellied sea eagle gains a point every turn. It starts at 9, and that seems kind of worth it. But I decided not to tuck anything with Chiff Chaff because I'm probably going to use this white-bellied sea eagle. And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, I've got a fish already. I can just play the white-bellied sea eagle in that 5th slot. And now I've got, a pretty solid engine to use in the forest. I'm drawing cards, I'm tucking cards, I'm gaining points, the wheels are turning that like, oh, this is a pretty good engine I've got going, but Yellowhammer doing Yellowhammer things, dropping down a wood duck in the forest, using basically all of my Wingspan karma on this game. Getting all of my favorite birds that I like to play with. And see, he won by 6, but I don't mind. You can have the win. Now you've got a bunch of junk food, and I have, look at all these nectar. I mean, I've got 3, 4, and 6 already. It's the end of round 2. So winning the nectar battle this game is looking pretty promising. Against a Raven, mind you. So then I see he's got a short-toed tree creeper, and I'm like, well, that bronze-headed cowbird. I had to think about it because I saw him drop this tree creeper, and I was like, he's gonna lay eggs like 2 more times, and then he's gonna go off with his tree creeper and just build out his forest. I don't actually think I'm gonna get that much value out of this cowbird, but I decided, you know what? It's a pink power, so it essentially completes a Behaviorist. It essentially is 3 points for Behaviorist. So I see this as a 6-point bird that probably gets me 2 or 3 eggs. And it pushes my grasslands out a little further, and I can get more eggs out of it. I think it's worth playing that bird. And then I see the bush tit. I don't necessarily want the bush tit, but I don't want him to have the bush tit. I think it's a late bush tit, but with his forest engine, I could see him, or his forest build out, or his grasslands current state. I don't want to know what that bush tit could do to tuck some extra cards and gain eggs, especially with that tree creeper. It felt dangerous to leave that in the tray for him. So I decided to even keep the quail. I just wanted it gone. So, and there we go. Black skimmer stellar stray. Nothing too scary in that tray now. This is one thing I find awkward about Chiff Chaff, is that you have to have the resources to ditch in order to gain points with it. So it really doesn't get valuable until the very end. I think Chiff Chaff is best as a final bird play, not a first bird play or early bird play. And maybe I play it wrong. I don't know. It feels weird because you take actions to gain all these resources. You don't gain the points for free. So like House Finch, it gains the point by itself because it gives you the card back. But Chiff Chaff can ditch multiple resources for multiple points, so I suppose that's the value. And it's cheap. I feel the same way about the Nutcracker, the Eurasian Nutcracker. That bird can be difficult to get tons of points out of because you have to find the wheat. So I find just some bombs of points, like I truly, I'm looking at all this value in my hand and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know which bird makes the most sense. So I decided to just keep it all. I can ditch later. I like to spread out my tucks with Chiff Chaff, but looking at later in this game, we will find out that with Chiff Chaff, you should put it all on one bird if you're playing it in the forest, and you'll find out why. So I know I want to get this cowbird down ASAP. I don't know how many times he's gonna lay eggs again, but I know he's gonna do it once or twice. He's not gonna completely abandon his forest or his grasslands engine, so hopefully I can get 3 or 4 eggs out of it. And like I said, it just completes a behaviorist column, most likely, so it's a 6-point bird, if you look at it like that. And I definitely do. But it's only a 6-point bird because I have a white bird to put in the wetlands, right? I've got that red knot or that trumpeter swan that is the other part of it, and there's no reason not to use that bird, right? Those are good. So that's why I treat this bronze-headed cowbird as a 6-point bird. If I had 2 birds that were subpar that completed the column, well then it's not a 6-point bird, right? Because you've got 2 birds that aren't very good. So I think I played bronze-headed cowbird next. In fact, I'm fairly certain of it. And I decided to use a nectar because I know he's got... I decided to use the wheat. Just kidding. Didn't use a nectar. Totally got you guys. Who thought that I was actually going to use a nectar there? Because I got you. I just figure I have 2 more slots that I can put more nectar into in the grasslands, and he's only got 1 more slot, so it's going to be pretty easy to compete for nectar in the grasslands at this point. It's the forest where I'm nervous that he's going to overtake it, that he'll gain a ton of nectar and then snatch that nectar end of game goal with his tree creeper. But I thought it was really creative of my opponent to go with a tree creeper because he's got plenty of egg access and plenty of food from his grasslands, so he can just go between them and like lay eggs once, and then he just needs the cards to play. But once he's got them, then he's just gonna lay, or what is it, tree creeper over and over again and just fill out his forest almost instantly. I don't think he had the right cards to do that, I think, is the only problem that happened. Like, he just didn't get the right ones, so. And so now, this next turn, I'm thinking, okay, going into this last round, I think having a bunch of extra cards is actually going to be pretty valuable. Yeah, I remember what happens next. So I'm deciding whether or not I want to ditch one of these cards and gain the excess nectar, but then I realize, no, I don't want to do that, because right now I'm probably going to try to play 1 more bird and then Yellowhammer. Oh wait, I don't have the eggs for that, so never mind. I don't know. I figured I would either draw cards 1 more time or lay eggs 1 more time, but then Housefinch gives me Blythe's Hornbill, which is a terrible bird for me. Just throwing that out there. This bird, normally a very good bird, but I don't have a good way to fill the egg slots to get the full value, to get any value out of it. So yeah, if I had something that was like laying extra eggs, I think it would be worth it, but I just had no good way to do it. So, yeah, Blythe's Hornbill goes. But, like, man, I'm telling you, this game was just so full of value. And then, White Wagtail. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And I know I'm not playing that red cockaded woodpecker. It's just not as valuable as other birds. You know, even white-bellied sea eagle, it's 3 more points, and it's probably, you know, I can probably play it and then, because I think that was the plan, play the white-bellied sea eagle last, and then take food twice in that final round, and then play 2 more birds essentially with Yellowhammer and then 1 play a bird. But with this wagtail, now I'm like, how do I want to do this? And looking back at it, if I play the wagtail now, that leaves me 2 nectar and a fish, which is bad, because then I don't have enough food to play 2 more birds. I certainly don't have enough eggs. So I can't play the wagtail now, but what I can do is Yellowhammer into wagtail and then play something else. And something else I realize is that wagtail hits Behaviorist. So wagtail's a 5-point bird that gives me 2 extra play a bird actions, essentially. I'm super down. I thought about it. I was like, am I really about to play a wagtail here? And I was like, well, I've got 2 eggs. I can just Yellowhammer into wagtail and then into even like mute or the trumpeter swan, and I can call it good. I decided to take the cuckoo because it's another color and it fulfills the end around bonus, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then the imperial eagle. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is getting complicated fast. There's a lot of value in all these cards, and how do I get the most out of this? And looking back at it, I think I did pretty well. I think I made a couple minor little tweaks in the opening hand, but in the opening rounds, but the way this last end around went, the way I took my turns, I think went super, super well. I think I earned the score I got with these last couple actions. So, yep, I'm gonna use it. I'll play the wagtail in the wetlands so that it fulfills Behaviorist, and then I'll be able to play the mute swan using the fish. The fish that has been in my inventory the whole game. I can use it to play this trumpeter swan, and it also hits Behaviorist, so that was some big brain knack nester right there, if I say so myself. It also won me the end of round. And I thought about that too. I can't believe how swell that went. So now I think to myself, okay, I've got plenty of good birds to play. I know I need to draw cards at some point. And I see the southern cassowary, and I'm like, well, I don't really need to ditch anything in my forest, but I really don't want him to have that southern cassowary. So I think about taking the nectar because that's also really valuable to me right now. And I even hovered it and grabbed him, and I was like, no, I don't want him to have the cassowary because he's got that tree creeper. So he could easily ditch a final egg and then put the cassowary on the tree creeper, and I could just see some real value coming out of my opponent being able to play that. So, and I thought to myself, okay, I could just draw it up with wood duck, right? But you know, honestly, I'd rather have the excess cards now, and I can ditch them with Chiff Chaff, and I can ditch them for Nectar. I can worry about it later. I think it's way more important for me to just draw cards right now. So I'm fairly certain that's what I did. It took me a while to make the decision, though. And then I drew this great blue heron, and I'm like, there's no way I will get enough food for this great blue heron. And then I see this black swan, and I'm like, oh my gosh, another color? But I've only got, what, 1 bird that it plays on top of? 2 if you count the eagle, the imperial eagle. I don't know. Black swan, tempting. Multoni's warbler, tempting. Could you imagine playing 3 birds at the end of this round? but that didn't happen. I'll just spoiler that right now. That would have been crazy, though. If I drop the Moltonis and then I play 3 birds end of game. So, I wonder if I should have. That would have been crazy, right? I could take food twice and then hopefully ditch all the food that I need. And I actually, the reason I drew cards, another reason I drew cards is I decided I'm probably not going to play the white-bellied sea eagle. I don't think it works for what I'm trying to do right now. I just decided, you know what, it's not that great. And then, as I'm thinking about this, you know, the 1 egg, that's nice. It doesn't actually help me all that much. But as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, am I really... I think this cassowary has a place. And I know the great blue heron, I wonder the way this played out if I could have made that great blue heron work, but you know, it's fine. I'm okay with the fact that I ditched it. So because I just won't have enough food for everything, so I probably could have ditched something I know I'm not gonna play, but it's not that big of a deal. Yep, 2 fodder birds, totally fine. Not playing Franklin's Gull. I look at Montagues, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder if Montagues can, like, play on top of Yellowhammer, but then I think about it, and I know how I want to do this. And I look at Chiff Chaff, and I'm like, I don't know if I need to ditch full. I can always, I'm probably going to take food one more time, so I don't need to, like, go crazy and ditch all 4. And I need to have something that I want to discard as well. Yeah, I don't think I ditched all 4 cards. Because this is where it hits me. I am going to use the Southern Cassowary. The Southern Cassowary fulfills Behaviorist. And I figure Hermit Thrush is a good takeaway from him. And I can just throw it away. I'm not going to use it. If I put Cassowary over my Wagtail, I lose 3 tucks. I lose 5 points. But then I gain 4. And then I gain 4 eggs. And that's 8 points plus 3 for Behaviorist. That's 11. So that's a 6-point play, and it also gives me a ton of eggs to work with. So I liked that play a lot. I thought that was actually pretty smart. And it's 7 points if you count Black Swan, which I do plan on using as well. It's because it is a star wingspan, so it does get an egg from the Black Swan. So I've drawn cards, and I've taken food. And remember, Yellowhammer and Wagtail, you got to really plan out these turns. The best case scenario is that you play 2 birds in your final round, and then your Yellowhammer and Wagtail can both trigger, but I won't have enough food for that this turn. So I decide, okay, I'll just take food a second time so that Wagtail and Yellowhammer can both trigger. That'll give me 8 food total, and I think I can make both Yellowhammer and Wagtail work. I haven't played a bird yet, so I'll need to do that. So I actually did, this is the turn where I really had to think the most. I think I should have taken food one more time now. It's not that big of a deal, but I probably should have taken food one more time right now. I decided, okay, I think I can just play the Cassowary now, and we'll be good. I also think to myself, okay, Cassowary goes on top of Wagtail. Does that screw up my Mechanical Engineer? Because remember, I have Mechanical Engineer, and right now, Mechanical Engineer is not complete. I do need at least 1 more cavity or 1 more platform, and then it will be complete. But I count, and I've got 3 cup nests. I can safely play this on top of Wagtail. Again, this is a 7-point play, and it gets me all these eggs, and it gets me 2 cherries, which is super great. So looking at what he's got set up, this is also a good way to use Nectar, so totally fine there. And the beautiful thing about the Black Swan is that it is an omnivore. So those cherries can now be used for the black swan. But again, I think I should have drawn food one more time, and then I could have taken one more card with my... wagtail, which would have been pretty beneficial here. It would have just been one more point. That's essentially what that turned into. So now, I know my last 2 turns are going to be laying eggs and drawing cards. Laying eggs and taking food. So I decide I'm going to take food first so I can get the resources, and then I need to ditch 2 resources for... eggs. So now that I've played the cassowary, now my opponent is just tossing out eggs left and right. But it's not that big of a deal. Eggs are points, so... Yep, take all the nectar in sight. And at this point, I decide, okay, do I need 4 nectar? So I look at this, and I think to myself, okay, I need 6 food in total. So this extra nectar gets me almost enough. And the reason I need 6 food is because I plan on not using any tucks. So I reset the game here. You can do this it'll go back to the most recent not skip moment. This is important to know how the game works. In the tabletop, this would be perfectly legal, but essentially I had ditched a card and the game wouldn't let me undo that. But I decided, okay, I don't need to ditch a card. I can just take my 6th food. We're good there, and I might as well take the points. So I don't need Great Crested Grebe, but then the Mountain Bluebird shows up, and I think, oh, there we go. That's what I need. Now this I hovered for a long time to figure out. I immediately thought, okay, just tuck all the birds you don't need, but I thought about it. I was like, no, I can make this bluebird work. So to make the bluebird work, I need to save 2 cards to tuck with the eagle. And then I would get those points for that. And then also, I need to discard a card at the end of this turn, which would have been nice for the wagtail. And he... Let me think. Yeah. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 birds that I'm not going to use. And I think, okay, I can just tuck them with Chiff Chaff. But I also need to lay eggs. It turned out to be 6 of one, half a dozen the other. I could have just submitted this right here. I would have been fine. I wouldn't have been able to use resources for eggs. I would have just played 2 eggs, 0 points, whatever. This all ends up being a huge wash. But I decided to completely skip the Chiff Chaff because I know that I can use cards for eggs and be perfectly fine. You know what? We can just edit most of this out.
11 minutes later.
So I decided to completely skip the Chiff Chaff.
Eventually.
So in the end, I decided to completely skip the Chiff Chaff because I want to be able to tuck 2 birds under my eagle, and I will also lay 2 extra eggs with my lay eggs action. Again, it's a wash. I could have just tucked them. It really didn't matter. And then I do have to discard 1. So coming into my final turn, I have 2 cards that I can ditch for eggs. Cuckoo can go. Doesn't really matter where I lay them. Just counting out my resources to make sure I did this correctly, and I did. Because now I was thinking, am I able to use those cherries effectively? And yes I can. Yeah, that Mountain Bluebird ended up getting me, obviously it's 4 to play again, but it also got me more points because it allows me to use nectar on a bird instead of instead of using 3 nectar on that eagle. So at this point, I did have to go feed my cats, so that's why there is quite a pause here. But my cats always come first. And I'm back. Go ahead and use the wagtail, and I carefully use both cherries on this because I didn't want to screw this up. Doesn't really matter where I take the eggs from. I do want to make sure I take one off the cassowary so that the black swan can actually lay on it. And there we go. And by using 3 nectar on that final play, I do win the nectar in the grasslands as well. So that's a 6-point swing there. Unfortunately, I did not win this end around, even though I did play Black Swan Imperial Eagle, it wasn't enough. 4 eggs in total from the Black Swan, which is super great. Completed the Behaviorist 2. And now everybody's favorite part, the point counter. And 131. So a couple important notes here. I wonder if I had played Savvy's Warbler back in that earlier round, if that would have been valuable. It would have screwed up the behavioralist value from Wagtail. So, obviously it was wrong. Being facetious. If I had just been patient with tucking with Chiff Chaff, I think it would have been interesting too. Like I said, I just kind of ditched cards I didn't need whenever I activated Chiff Chaff, but I knew I was going to put more birds down by the end of the game, and I didn't fully utilize Chiff Chaff in several turns at the end, so I wonder if I could have just avoided those tucks later as soon as I had what is that bird? As soon as I had the cassowary. I will certainly keep the cassowary in mind going forward. It's weird, but that bird can be so useful. And so there we go, 131. Like I said, if I didn't Chiff Chaff early, I think I could have gotten maybe 140, maybe a bit ambitious, but either way, 131, I'm not mad at a score like that. I just think if I was a better player and played that early game a little bit higher value, then I could have probably gotten some more out of it. But I'm learning, I'm getting better. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you were able to finish your beverage of choice, and I hope you did like and subscribe and comment. Thank you all again, and cheers.